Hey everyone, so today in this video we shall learn about the phase rule and its application to one component system. When we have mentioned one component system, let's try to understand what component stands for in this section of chemistry. The number of components of a system at equilibrium, it is actually the smallest number of independently variable constituents or parts of the system by means of which the composition of the entire phase is defined or can be expressed. In other words, when a substance or when a number of substances they exist in one single phase, right, then how many components are there, how many constituents are there in that particular phase which are capable enough to define or describe or express that phase, they are called as components, right? For example, in the water system, usually we have three phases, that is ice, water and vapor in equilibrium, right? But all these three phases they are made up of just one thing, that is H2O, water. So it forms a one component system. So today in our studies, we shall be studying about the water system, right? So we will learn about the phase rule, how it governs the water system, and what is the phase diagram of the water system. Okay, so before moving on to the phase diagram, let's have an introduction part of this water system. Let's try to have some background knowledge of this water system. We know that there are three distinct phases of water, that is solid, liquid and vapor. So the water exists in the solid phase, which we call usually as ice. It exists in the liquid phase, which we call as water, liquid water. And also it exists in the gaseous phase, which we call as vapor. Now, there is a slight difference between these two terminologies, that is vapor and gas. Why have I written vapor over here in case of water? See, vapor and gas, although they represent the same phase, but we use the term vapor wherein the substance actually it does not exist in the gaseous state at room temperature, or in other words, it can exist as a liquid state. So that, for example, like we have water. Water exists as a liquid state at room temperature, but when we boil it, when we heat it, it starts changing into the vapor phase. Okay, so here the gas term will not be applied for this particular phase of water. Okay, so we call such phase as vapor. Okay, for another example, that is wherein we have sublimation process. Okay, so the vapors are used, the vapor terminology is used over there wherein the substance undergoes sublimation. So we say the vapors of that substance is present. Okay, fine. So there is a difference between the term vapor and gas over here, right? And specifically we use the term vapor for those substances which actually do not exist as the gaseous state in the room temperature. Okay, it may be in the liquid state, it may be in the solid state also. Okay, so water here exists in three distinct phases. Another example that we can take to explain the term and the difference between the vapor and gas is the sublimation of iodine. When the sublimation of iodine occurs, actually what happens, the iodine is in the solid state, crystals of iodine are there, right? And you provide some heat energy to those crystals, they will not change into the liquid state, but directly they change into the vapor state. So there also we do not use the term gas, right? So vapor terminology is used wherein the substance, for those substances specifically wherein they do not exist in the gaseous phase at room temperature, but they can exist as a solid phase, like I gave the example of iodine crystals, or in the liquid phase like we have water. Okay, now coming back to the story of water, we know that there are three different phases of water, that is solid ice, liquid water and vapor state. So hence three different equilibrium can exist in the case of water, that is the solid liquid equilibrium. That means the equilibrium state between the ice and the liquid water, right? The second equilibrium that can exist is liquid vapor equilibrium, and the third one is solid vapor equilibrium. Okay, so there are three different equilibriums that can exist in case of water because it has three different phases. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, that is the phase diagram of water. Now, first try to understand the outline of the phase diagram. What does a phase diagram consist of? On the x-axis, the phase diagram consists of the temperature, and the vapor pressure is there on the y-axis. Now, in case of the phase diagram of water, what we observe is that as we move from point A to another point, we see that with the increase in temperature, the increase in vapor pressure is taking place, right? So with the increase in temperature, the vapor pressure also increases up till a point O, and then further also it increases wherein we see the point C. Okay, but there is another change that is observed. There is another study which says that with the decrease in temperature, the vapor pressure increases along the curve OB. Okay, so let's try to make it out what is happening actually. Okay, so with the increase in temperature along the curve AO and along the curve OC, the vapor pressure is increasing, right? But on the other hand, along the curve OB, what we observe, the story is something different. We observe that with the decrease in temperature, the vapor pressure is increasing. Now, this is what the phase diagram of water looks like actually. We have curves here that are represented by AO curve, OC and OB curve. Okay, and what other part of the phase diagram that we observe is we see that the area which lies to the left of the section, the curve section, that is AOB, that represents the solid state of water. And what is the solid state of water? Definitely ice. Okay, so the area which lies to the left of curve AOB is the solid state. Okay, fine. And the area which lies above the curve BOC, this area, this entire area, actually it shows the characteristics of the liquid state of water. Okay, the water that we consume. And the third part, the third area of this curve is representing the vapor phase, that is the portion of the graph which lies to the right of curve AOC. It represents the vapor state of water. Okay, so in short, the phase diagram of water, till now we know that it consists of two parts, that is the curves, okay, and the definite areas. Now, what do these curves and areas denote? What is the significance of these curves and areas in this in the phase diagram of water? What information do we get from these curves and areas? Let's try to explore. We see that the curve AO, if you just try to zoom in into this part, the curve AO actually is the, let's say, a division line between the solid state of water and the vapor state of water. I hope we all agree to this. Yes. So this curve AO, which is actually lying between the solid state of water and the vapor phase of water, it is called as the sublimation curve. It's an easy way to remember this thing. You know that whenever the change in state takes place from the solid to directly to the vapor phase, the process is called as sublimation. So from there you can remember this term for the curve AO, the sublimation curve. Now, what is the sublimation curve? Sublimation curve actually, it represents the equilibrium state between the solid and the vapor phase of water, right? Now, when I say equilibrium state, what does it mean? Definitely, it means that at this particular position, at this particular state, that is the equilibrium state, here in this case, the solid and the vapor phase of water, they exist together, right? So there is an equilibrium between the solid state of water, that is ice, and the vapor phase of water at this particular curve AO. So the curve AO, which is called as the sublimation curve, it actually represents the equilibrium state between the two phases of water, okay, that is the solid and vapor. So what do we know by this? We know that along the curve AO, what will you find? Now, if I say I point at this, I just point at this particular part of the curve. So this point of the curve will carry both the solid phase of water as well as the vapor phase of water, and they both are in equilibrium with one another, right? Okay, now the next curve, let's see what does it say. The next curve, that is the OC curve, it lies between the liquid state of water and the vapor phase of water. So definitely it will be called as the vapor pressure curve. Now students, it is very important to remember the term which is used for these specific curves, right? Because the term, the name actually defines what is happening along that curve. Okay, and thereon, the second part which you need to remember over here is that the curves actually represent the equilibrium state. Okay, so likewise, the vapor pressure curve represents the equilibrium state between the liquid state of water and the vapor phase of water. So what do I mean by this? That if I move at any point along this curve OC, I will observe that at any point along this curve, both the liquid state of water and the vapor phase of water, they are coexisting, and both of them are in equilibrium state, right? Okay, so this was the story of the curve OC. Now let's see what the curve OB says. It is called as the fusion curve, and actually it lies in between the solid and the liquid state of water, right? So it is called as the fusion curve. You remember in chemistry, the melting terminology is also used as fusion sometimes. Okay, so fusion curve is the curve OB, which actually again it carries the same story as the other two curves. It is the equilibrium state between the solid state of water and the liquid state of water. That means along this curve OB, at any point, if you move along this curve at any point, right, you will be observing these two phases of water, that is the solid and the liquid phases of water, and both of them will be in equilibrium with each other. Okay, so what do we gain from this now? That the phase diagram of water actually consists of two parts, mainly up till now that we have studied, that is the curves and the areas. Okay, the curves, you know that they represent the equilibrium condition, equilibrium state between the two phases of water, between which they lie. Like for example, AO curve lies between solid and vapor phase, so it represents the equilibrium state between the solid and the vapor phase, right? The OC curve lies along the lies in between the liquid and the vapor phase, so definitely it is going to represent the equilibrium state between the liquid and the vapor phase of water. And likewise, the story continues for the curve OB also. Okay, and the second part of this phase diagram of water is the areas. Okay, so along the curves we studied that there are two phases which are coexisting. Okay, and in the areas, the story is something different actually. The areas represent the true single phase of water. Like for example, the area to the left of AOB curve, we have marked it as solid. That means this entire area is going to have what? Only ice. So if I say I make a point over here, okay, let's see, okay. So if I say I make a point over here corresponding to the temperature along the x-axis and the vapor pressure along the y-axis. What information do I get from here? It means this point, the phase diagram will give me the information that this point actually is explaining the solid state of water, that is ice. I am giving the information, I am getting the temperature and the pressure of that state of water, which is actually solid, which is actually ice. But if I say that I want to, let's say, have an information about a point X over here, right, at the corresponding temperature and of course the corresponding pressure on the vapor pressure on the y-axis. So what information the point X gives me? It gives me the information about a state of matter which is actually an equilibrium state between the liquid and the vapor phase of water. Okay, so this information we get from the phase diagram of water. These are the two important points. Okay, so along the curves we have two phases, right? And what are those phases? Definitely the ones which lie to the left and right of the curve, respective curve. Okay, and in the areas we have only one phase, single phase, that is the pure phase of water. Okay, let's see next. Now there is a curve actually which is obtained or which is seen under restricted conditions. Now if I try to extrapolate the curve CO towards the lower, much lower temperature, I receive a curve something like this, and this is called as metastable equilibrium. Okay, so the curve OC dash actually represents the metastable equilibrium. Remember, it is not an extra curve, but only an extrapolated and extended portion of the curve CO. Okay, we do not have any like some different curve over here. No, it is just the extrapolation of the curve CO, and it is called as metastable equilibrium, right? Okay. Now let's see the different parts of the phase diagram that we have just learned. The first is the curves that we learned, the three different curves, and yes, of course, the fourth one, that is the OC dash curve, that was called as the metastable equilibrium. The second part of the phase diagram is the areas, and the third part is the points. Now, what are those points? Let's go back to the previous slide. This point O is a point wherein we see that at this point, that means the point O, the solid state of water, the solid phase of water, okay, the liquid phase of water, as well as the vapor phase of water, all these phases, they are meeting at this one single point, and this is a very significant point. Okay, and since because three different phases are meeting over here, that means a coexistence of all the three phases of water is happening over here. Okay, so all the three states of water, all the three phases of water, solid, liquid, and vapor, they are coexisting at this particular point corresponding to its temperature and pressure. We'll see what are those specific values. And this point O, it is called as the triple point. Okay, so this is called as the triple point. This is one significant point in the entire phase diagram of water. Okay, so what we said, we had three different parts of the phase diagram, that is the curves, which represent the equilibrium condition between the two respective phases of water, which lie to the left and right of the respective curve. Okay, and the second part is the area, which actually represents the pure phase of the water, be it solid, be it liquid, or be it the vapor phase. Okay, and the third part is the points. Okay, and there is one single point over here, that is the triple point represented by O over here. This point actually says that the solid, liquid, and the vapor phases of water, they coexist at this point O. Okay, so the curves we had the sublimation curve AO, and we have the OC curve, which was the vapor pressure curve, OB, and this was the vapor pressure curve. Okay, the OB curve is called as the fusion curve, and the OC dash curve is called as the metastable curve. Let's say what's the story for the areas that we studied just now. We have three distinct areas. The area lying to the left of AOB. A is not visible over here in the slide. It's just hidden behind it. The curve, the area lying to the left of the curves AOB. Yes, of course, it is the solid phase of water. The area above the BOC part is the liquid, and to the right of the AOC curve is the vapor phase of water. So we have curves and we have areas. And yes, of course, we had a point, which is the triple point, and it has its own significance. Okay, that we'll study in the consecutive slides. Okay, now let's have a quick view at this phase diagram, which we just studied, the different parts of the phase diagram we just studied. And according to the Gibbs phase rule, the number of degrees of freedom is equal to the number of components minus the number of phases plus 2. This is the Gibbs equation that we get. Okay. So F is equal to C minus P plus 2. Now in this particular area, if we talk about, that means the area lying above the portion BOC, what does it represent? It represents a single phase, that is the liquid phase. So the single phase is there, that means the value of P will be just 1. Okay. And of course, we are talking about the one component system, right? We are discussing about the one component system. So then that is the water. So the value of C will be 1 over here. Okay, so likewise the value of the F, that is the degrees of freedom, will be 1 minus 1 plus 2, that comes out to be 2. Okay, remember in the water system there is only one component, namely H2O. Okay, and the three phases taking part in the system are ice, water, and vapor. Okay, however, the actual number of these phases existing in equilibrium at a particular instance, it depends upon the conditions of temperature and pressure. Likewise, we say that as the temperature increases, the vapor pressure increases. Okay, so what part, what phase, what condition, and what are the actual number of phases existing at a particular point? It depends on the temperature and vapor pressure. So if we know the temperature and vapor pressure value of a particular system, we can definitely say out or speak out, or we can predict from this phase diagram as to what is the phase of water at that particular value of temperature and pressure. Or let's say what are the different phases that might be existing or coexisting rather at that value of temperature and pressure. Okay, so the value of F, that is the degrees of freedom for this particular part, that is this particular area that lying above BOC, it comes out to be 2. And when the value of F, that is degrees of freedom, it comes out to be 2, it is called as a bivariant system. BI, bivariant system, it stands for 2 actually. Okay, fine. Now if we talk about the area lying left to the curve AOB, right? Again, the same formula, we will try to calculate the degrees of freedom over here also, like we did in the previous case. So F is equal to C minus P plus 2. And again, value of C and P will be 1 and 1 respectively, because it is the solid state, it is the area which we are talking about. And in any area over here in the phase diagram of water, the number of components is 1, definitely everywhere. And the number of phases here is also 1. That is the solid or the ice phase. Okay, and to the let's try to calculate in the third section also, third area also, in fact, if we more technical, area lying to the right of AOC curve, the value of F again comes out to be as 2. Why? Because component is 1, because it is a one component system, the water system we are discussing, and nothing else with it. Okay, number of phases, it is only the vapor phase which exists in this area, in the entire area. You can calculate over here also, you can calculate here, you have just one single phase. So here also the value of degrees of freedom comes out to be 2. So it is 2 in this area, it is 2 in this area, and the value of degrees of freedom comes out to be 2 here also. That means we can summarize that the degrees of freedom in any area, okay, it is having the value of 2. Okay, that means it is a bivariant system if we talk about any area in this phase diagram. Okay, so just remember this point, that the number of degrees of freedom is 2 in the areas. Okay, and it's a bivariant system. Okay, the areas in the diagram here, actually they represent the conditions of temperature and pressure under which only one of the three phases, namely the ice, the water, or the vapor, is capable of stable existence. Okay, so in order to define the system completely at any point in the area, it is essential to spell out both the temperature and pressure, like we did for the curves also. Okay, fine. Now, along the curve, if we try to calculate the number of degrees of freedom, again it carries the same expression, that is the F is equal to C minus P plus 2. But along the curve, what we learned? We learned that the curve represents the equilibrium between the two phases. Okay, what are those two phases? The one which lies to its left and the other one which lies to its right, to the right of the curve. So here in this case, in case of the curve, OC, F is equal to C minus P plus 2, and the value of C, the number of component, will be 1 here also, because we are discussing the one component system, remember. Okay, and it is the water system over here specifically. Okay, but the number of phases will be different here. Why? Because it is an equilibrium state. So the number of phases will be 2 here. Okay, why? Because vapor pressure curve represents the equilibrium state between the liquid and the vapor phases. So these are the two phases. Okay, so the value of P comes out to be 2, but the value of C remains 1 as such, and the value of number of degrees of freedom comes out to be 1 over here. Means it is a univariant system. Okay, let's try to explore another curve over here with for the value of the degrees of freedom. That is the curve AO. The AO curve also carries the same story. Why? Because the number of component is same, that is 1, and the number of phases here also, it consists of 2 phases. And what are those 2 phases in case of the curve AO? It is the solid and the vapor phase. Okay, so 2 phases, 1 component, value comes out to be 1. Okay, the same story goes for the curve OB also, wherein the value of the number of degrees of freedom comes out to be 1. Hence, along the curves, the number of degrees of freedom is 1, and so it is called as a univariant system. What is the story at this point O, that is the triple point? Triple point, F is equal to C minus P plus 2, right? C, that is number of component. Component will be 1 here also, because we are discussing one component system, that is water, H2O. Okay, as long as there is nothing else besides H2O, it will be a one component system here. Okay, so F is equal to C minus P plus 2. C is 1. But what about the number of phases? I told just now, this point is the point wherein solid, liquid, and vapor, all these three phases, they coexist. Okay, so likewise, the value of P over here will be changing. That will be 3, solid, liquid, and vapor. Okay, and so in case of the triple point, the value of number of degrees of freedom comes out to be 0. Okay, it is 0, that means it is a non-variant system. So what do we gain from here? We gain from here that the value of the number of degrees of freedom, or the value of F, is same in all the areas, which is 2. Hence, the areas are bivariant. They represent the bivariant system. Along the curves, it is same, which is 1. Okay, and at triple point, it is 0. So if we try to compare the value of F in a particular area and curve, they will be different. Yes, of course, because in an area it is 2, the value of F is 2, whereas along the curve it is 1. But if we compare all the three areas with one another, right? So the value of the degrees of freedom, it is same. Similarly, the value of degrees of freedom, the number of degrees of freedom, that is F, it is same along the curve, be it any curve that you move along. Okay, and that is 1. And at triple point, yes, of course, it is having a value of 0. That means it is a non-variant system. Okay. Now the point C. The point C actually is having the value of temperature of 374 degrees centigrade. Actually, what happens, the curve OC, okay, it can extend as far as point C, or let's say it extends as far as the critical temperature of water, which is actually 374 degrees centigrade. Why? Because since above this temperature, the liquid water cannot exist, and we are not able to demarcate whether it is a liquid phase or a vapor phase. Okay, so beyond point C, liquid water ceases to exist, and we are not able to define whether it is the liquid or the vapor phase. So this is the critical temperature of water, which is having the value of 374 degrees centigrade. Okay, and corresponding vapor pressure value for this temperature is around somewhere around 218 atmosphere. Okay, the point O, triple point. The triple point is having the temperature of 0.0098 degrees centigrade. Okay, and a corresponding vapor pressure of 0.006 atmosphere. Right? So the temperature and pressure at the triple point are having these corresponding values respectively. Okay, so and we just discussed that it is that point wherein the curves and the phases, they meet with each other. Okay, so solid, liquid and vapors, they vapor phases of water, they coexist. And what is that temperature and pressure? The temperature of 0.0098 degrees centigrade and 0.006 atmospheric pressure. This at this particular temperature and pressure values, what will we have? We will have a system wherein the solid, liquid and vapor phases, they coexist. All the curves and the phases, they meet with each other. Okay, right. So if we have a closer view at the phase diagram of water, we will see that there are three different curves, as we just mentioned, and along these curves, right, along these curves, the variation of the vapor pressure with the temperature can be expressed in terms of Clapeyron-Clausius equation. For example, the Clapeyron-Clausius equation for the curve AO and OC and OB respectively, we see that the change in temperature with respect to the change in the change in pressure with respect to the change in temperature, it is given by delta HV, that related to the vapor phase, okay, divided by the temperature into volume of the gaseous phase. Remember, here it was the vapor phase. Okay, so we are talking about that vapor phase over here. The volume of the water of H2O in the vapor phase minus the volume in the liquid phase, which is here. Okay, so along the curve OC, okay, the variation of temperature and pressure, it is given by the Clapeyron-Clausius equation, which is this. Similarly, we can have the Clapeyron-Clausius equation for the curve AO also, and for the curve OB also. We don't have much problem in the curve AO and OC. Why? Because we see that the AO curve is going to have a positive slope, yes, and similarly the OC curve is also going to have a positive slope over here. But the story is quite different in terms of curve OB. Why? Because with the decrease in temperature, we see the vapor pressure is increasing. So let's try to understand this story with the Clapeyron-Clausius equation over here. It says that the change in pressure with respect to the change in temperature is equal to delta HS divided by the temperature into volume of the liquid phase minus the volume of the solid phase. Now we know when we take a glass of water and we put some ice cubes into that water, what happens? Those ice cubes, they float. Yes, the ice cubes float. Why do they float? Why don't they sink down? What is the situation, or what is the condition wherein the substance floats and does not sink? Definitely it happens when the density is lesser than that of water. Okay, so here the density of ice actually is less than that of water, due to which it floats. Okay, when the density is lesser than water, so what will be the value for volume? Definitely the solid phase of water will have a greater value if we compare to the liquid phase of water. Now, what do we mean by that? This value Vs will be having a greater value as compared to the VL. Okay, so when this Vs will have a greater value, definitely the entire term on the right hand side will be giving us a negative value. Yes, we'll be having some defined figure, some defined number with a negative sign. So this means that the slope, this is actually defining the slope. Okay, so the slope of the line is negative. Okay, and this could be easily explained by the Clapeyron-Clausius equation. We'll try to correlate what are the applications of this change in slope or the negative slope with respect to the temperature and vapor pressure. Okay. So this is actually the curve which has the negative slope, which shows the negative slope, which was proved by the Clapeyron-Clausius equation. And why does that happen? Because the volume of the solid is greater than the liquid phase in case of water, or let's say in other words, the density of ice is lesser than that of water. You must be remembering whenever you fill a a bottle with water and you keep it for refrigeration, you are supposed to leave some gap above the level of water. Okay, we do not fill up the water up to the brim. Okay, so why the gap is left? So that the water, if it gets solidified, it changes into ice, it expands. So that gap, that empty gap is left for providing the space for that water, for the cooled up water, for the ice which is forming if in case it to expand. Okay, so that is the reason. Well, I hope it was clear to all of you.